All right, fantastic. Well, I think we're hopefully streaming now. Hopefully we have a live stream going on YouTube at this point. My name is Crates, and if you're tuning in for the first time, we're here to do a little bit of coding. So if that's not your thing, take off. We're going to do a little bit of React and TypeScript coding as we build this mindfulness, productivity, and organization app called VieDay. And the feature that we've been working on is a daily checklist to help you stay on top of things like drinking enough water, getting in bed on time, and not using caffeine after 2 p.m., things like that. So it looks like we are good to go. So I'm going to copy this streaming link for you guys, and you should all be able to tune in just a second and see what everybody out there in the internet land is seeing. How's everyone's week going so far? You don't say. So it goes.
Our deployment's on Tuesday. If you want to include Tuesday, why?
They said on Monday night. Okay, so I've got that link for you guys now. I'm going to go ahead and pop it into the Google chat, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I've been taking some notes here as well to try and just set up a roadmap for these programming sessions so that we can keep things moving smoothly and quickly, and also track any technical debt or critical bugs that get surfaced as we do the calls. I know we're already doing a lot of that in Jira. I don't want to slow things down too much by creating Jira tickets, at least not right now. We might start using CodeStream for that because it can create them pretty quickly, frankly. And I'm all about efficiency and optimization. So we'll kind of play it by ear. But for right now, I'm thinking it might be useful for us to just very shorthand that stuff very quickly. Anytime that we have any issues like that, we'll just grab it, put it into a text file, and I'll worry about it when we're not live and streaming. Let me make sure you guys have that link before I go any further. Find that meat for you. Anybody who's listening at home and enjoying the music, what we've got right now is Matt Soroy's Depths of Azure is the name of his band. Matt Soroy is the person who wrote it. This is from his Trials album. It's called Bad Thoughts. Great song. Really enjoy it. And thank you to Matt for giving us permission to use his music on the background of some of this. We've got music from a couple of artists. We've got some of Sonic source material, which is Gio and Elliot and myself and Eric and Pierce. We've got some stuff of my own material and some of Matt's on here. We'll be adding more material from other indie artists, either people represented by or friends of the Lionel Records label with time. Folks, I've got that link in the Google Meet for our pair buddies here. And that way they can follow along the stream. And so I'm going to switch my view from my camera so that you guys can see some code. And some stuff that we did last time, just to quickly recap. I don't think Elliot was on yesterday's session, so what were we doing? We wanted to start getting stuff moved into more shared libraries. And also, we did a lot around the test specs to really clean up and pay close attention to how we're running our test specs. So what you'll see here on the left pane is checklist.spec.ts. This is a Cypress series of Cypress tests that we were writing. One of the last things that we did yesterday, and I can get rid of a lot of this stuff that we're not going to need anymore. I think we can go ahead and probably remove a lot of this stuff here. So I'll go ahead and get rid of some of these no longer used variables. Get log out button. We're not going to be logging out here. We're not going to worry about the user profile pic or name or anything like that. But outside of that, I moved this mock for our checklist, which is currently supplying data for our view, into a place where it can be imported from our Cypress tests and our Jest tests. That's really important, right? I can't tell you how many times I've worked on projects at various companies where if they do have test coverage, they'll just duplicate the whole kit and caboodle, right? You know, you'll have it once in the Jest tests, and then you'll have it again in the Selenium test or the Cypress tests or Puppeteer or whatever, and that's just not the right way to do it, in my opinion. So another thing that we need to probably start looking at is how we get these routes. So we tried a couple of different things here, but and this will be one of the things we do in the refactor stage. I'd like to import these directly from our views. So we've got this getRouteHome method, but we were getting some weirdness there, and I think it's because of the way that we were doing it. So let me go ahead and take a look at this real quick. See how we're doing this here? I think we want to do this elsewhere. Let's do this a little differently. I'm going to take that getRoute function, I'm going to move it into my checklist spec for Cypress. And the reason I'm doing this is because I do want to leverage our shared helpers and our shared constants when deciding how to reference paths. I do not want to put literal strings in here like I'm currently doing. I'm going to leave the checklist one in there, /checklist as is, but I'm going to change the home path to reference, and hopefully this works this time. If I change this a little bit, I'm going to do it like this. And if this works, I think we can get rid of this support file. I don't think we're going to need it. Actually, this should probably look like a constant. And then, just to get in the habit of getting this pattern close to what it needs to be, we still need to add that route to the views page so it'll start showing up in menus. But to minimize the refactoring we have to do later, I'm going to take this checklist route and encode that in here as well. So now checklist route will also be a constant. Later on, we're going to switch that over to to-do. Okay. So what does this all add up to? So now we've got our mock, and we've got automated tests being generated. So be mindful of the little bit of lag we've got here, but I'm going to have you, Elliot, I'd like you to take a close look, extra look into this area that is talking about describe checklist entries, because in that area there, we're iterating over the checklist mock, and then we're actually doing assertions dynamically, so that for each item in the mock, we are grabbing the test ID, making sure it's visible, making sure that it contains the title. That was one of the last things we did last time. And so why is that really valuable or important? Because sometimes you'll get bugs where the first or last item in a list disappears or fell off the page, or you'll paginate something and the wrong 10 items will be on the page, or instead of being from 1 to 10, it's from 0 to 9, or vice versa, and so you end up getting things shuffled off by one or missing an item. These types of automated tests will do a great job of helping you to have less errors like that. And it looks like what's that?
So the idea really is just to basically a hard code of mock to compare against, so even when iterating, you're not really worried about, basically you have a hard set of data to compare against. Even when iterating, something disappearing from the top or bottom of the list won't be an issue because you already know exactly what the list should look like.
That's right, yeah, and that also helps you, as opposed to relying more on tests that are using real-world data or anything like that. We want to work with a data set that is mocked out based on our specifications so that it's consistent and so that it's tested the same way in various places. What's also cool about using these map type methods is, let's say you've got a bunch of records that you're testing against for different types of usernames, right? Well, if you wanted to start, like, let's say, you know, you've always been testing for people with names like John Doe or Steve Torres or, you know, whatever, Mike McDade, and then you suddenly find out that there are bugs when you enter a name like Shiva Kumar Basavaraju or something really long, you know. When you've written your tests this way, all you have to do to get a bunch of extra tests meeting certain criteria is to add them to your mock. Done. You know, so if you're trying to test for certain edge cases, just shape your mock slightly differently and you'll have new tests. You don't even have to write the tests, which is super cool. Really, really valuable. So I opened up header spec because we are getting some errors after my refactor there, and so I'm gonna fix that. There we go. Okay, so make sure that I don't have any references to dot only in here, because that can really mess up our testing approach if we do have any onlys. Cool, we're in good shape. Okay, so now let's switch our view and see what we're seeing in Cypress and whether or not we got a mess in our hands or not. So I've got a couple of skip tests in here that I don't think we even really need to include anymore. I'm getting real close to deleting these here. Let's go ahead and comment those guys out just so we can have them out of our view for now. And then we'll delete them when we finish refactoring before we turn everything in. For those listening at home, this is another Depths of Azure song. It's called 1984 from the Trials album. More phenomenal talent by Matt Royce. I'm going to try and get a little ticker coming at some point soon to show what's currently playing so we can see that, as well as we add more indie music to this. What would you call it? Screencast? Podcast? Godcast?
The stream, that's what I would always refer to it as, but what do I know? I'm not that.
A stream, yeah, that sounds about right. We can call it that.
Stream, a video podcast, tutorial series.
Don't cross them.
Stream's a lot easier to say.
It looks like we got a Webpack error now. I'm seeing that we got an unexpected character. This usually happens when I've got other compilation errors. It's like a red herring, maybe. Let me see. Checklist spec line 94. We got some issues. What did you do? Let's see if I can fix this up. I didn't actually change the SCSS, so I think that's a red herring for sure. Looks like the issue is in checklist spec. Got one big describe block. For unauth, authenticated, container, close the outermost one. This looks pretty good to me. Oh, hang on, here we go. What do the errors say? Empty arrow functions. Okay. I wouldn't expect this to fail compilation, though. Let's see. So let me switch back to IntelliJ so you can see what I'm looking at. I found it. It's those hotkeys, man. They're killing me. Okay, I think we fixed it. So I've saved it. I'm trying to see if it'll recompile here and hopefully reload the tests. Looks like we're still getting some weird syntax here. It's weird because I wasn't getting any errors with these files earlier. So now I'm wondering, I'm second guessing myself here. So let's see, I just made some more changes. Back to IntelliJ. This time it said no type errors found, and then failed to parse this stuff anyways. It's really strange. Let's go ahead and stop and restart our service just in case that's the problem. While that's reloading, let's give a little thought to what we're going to be doing next. I think we're going to probably want to test for certain classes. Oh yeah, so I do. I might have to rethink my hotkeys for that reason. Okay, so I'm just going to double check and make sure that I've got the right syntax, because we're going to start checking for certain classes on these and then check to see what changes and whether or not we're getting updates in the way we would expect. So basically, like when you click the button to change the state, we should see it add and remove the completed class. So choking a little bit. Okay, so when move this here, I'm going to refactor this a little bit and move my if previously completed and not completed outside of the parent described here. And say if initially completed and if initially incomplete will be the new outermost described blocks. And then we can move these guys into the describe block for each of these guys above. So here, Okay, so checklist entries, we've got our include, that's working fine. If initially completed, it should have the completed class on load. And when clicked, we're going to do something. And that's the end of the initially completed. If initially incomplete, it should not have the completed class on load. When clicked, it should turn into incomplete state and have the class. So the state, we'll have to use a spy to inspect the state. We'll worry about that in a minute. Okay. So now I think we're getting somewhere. And how do we want to test if this has the class? I think we want to do first we want to select it by its test ID, and then we want to assert with, I think it's has class is the syntax. So I'm just double checking that on the Cypress documentation here too, so if I'm a little delayed here, it's also because my computer's having a hard time even switching windows right now. Come on. Somebody must have hacked into my computer to mine Bitcoin.
Someone.
Are you saying it was you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about Bitcoin.
Bitcoin? What's Bitcoin?
I think it's those gold coins you get around Easter. You can bite right into them.
Litecoin. Oh man, I'm gonna come up with a competitor to Bitcoin and call it Litecoin just to confuse people.
Great. Turn that music down a skosh.
Sure. Yeah, it is. It should have class. Got it. Okay. So we're going to do a sci.get. We can do that with actually our same syntax as the one that we use in the collapsed item up here. So under include, we use this get test ID. We're going to use something very similar to that and say let's do the same exact syntax and make sure that all the completed ones have completed and all the incomplete ones do not. So so for this, we'll do checklist mock dot filter and then what do we want to test for? Only the ones that are completed. So let's look at our mock and we'll say object to object dot checked. That's going to filter out so that we only have the checked items. And so for each of these, we'll say there we go. we're only using this variable once. We don't need to put it into a variable at all. We can just do like this. Got it. Okay, so now for each of these items within the filtered subset, we should be able to make sure that they all have the class completed if they are marked as completed. Okay. I'm going to leave this other thing skipped for now. And we'll go ahead and skip these guys down here as well. Actually, we can just copy this whole thing as is. So that's exactly what we'll do inside the describe block. If initially incomplete, this song is In Your Eyes by Geo here on the call. Just the instrumental version, of course.
Love that song.
Me too. Not always have been called on. Let's hope. Weird one. I like the hinting on IntelliJ. It's really smart. Uh-oh. Looks like I screwed up. There we go. Now we're talking. Okay, so I just finished writing 2 sets of tests here. One that's checking to see that the ones that should be completed have the completed class, and ones that say that the ones that shouldn't have the completed class shouldn't. And so if we take a look at the run here, well, hopefully I can get this working again. Let me try and open Cypress again and see if we have corrected the errors we were getting earlier. Finally got back to the chiropractor today. He said that my my head is chronically tilted off to one side. I'm just always looking cockeyed at everyone.
I feel like there's a joke in there somewhere.
Somewhere.
I was on mute the whole time. I was talking and I didn't realize it.
There it is. There's the joke.
Classic.
Probably from all the stupid stuff you have to hear all day.
Yeah. There's like I heard it. Get away from us. Oh shit, we're recording, right? ya tú me conoces esto. Número uno, ten cuidado que también soy
Steve, you do this all.
flow, boom, boom.
You, did you see this sign there?
I honestly doubt it. Man, I don't know what has gone wrong here. I'm still getting errors. Okay, so I'm getting linting errors around these empty functions even though I'm skipping them. So I'll just comment them out and see if that fixes our issue. Wouldn't that be silly? Man, I'm still getting grief with the checklist spec. I'm not sure. Let me switch back over to that so you guys can see what I'm seeing. I have no errors on my end, but I'm still getting Webpack issues. If ever there was a reason to like Webpack, I've yet to find it. It is just a non-stop shit show with that thing. Hate it. I really do.
And that's why it's the industry standard.
Yep, indeed. Call it enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm running out of ideas here. I'm gonna try to just delete all the code I just wrote and see what happens, because I have no clue what's going on here and why this won't compile anymore.
I mean, could it be related to an import statement for the get route function that you use? I know that was something that's done fairly early on, and if there's any error there, it might impact the entire test.
That's a really good, yeah, that's a really good suggestion. I think you might have something there. Oh, I just found another Euro character too.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. You have it set to Euro mode and not, you know, US dollars.
That's got to be it. I knew it was something. So I think you're onto something there, Elliot. We got a similar error the other day when I was trying to use this get route convention. Let me see what happens when I just actually, I'm going to copy paste this and comment the old one out and just set this to home and see if that compiles, because I think you might be onto something there. Yeah, so that did fix it. So I just got to figure out now, bring back the code that I deleted and figure out why that's a problem. I don't know. We'll have to write some additional tests around that to figure out why our get route would be any kind of an issue, because that should only be returning just home, but there's something clearly wrong with that function, so that's going to take a little bit to debug. We're not going to do that today. I do need to fix the other place where I put home route now as a result of that, because otherwise we're going to have the same problems there. Okay. So thanks for the suggestion, Elliot. That's pair programming at work.
Yeah, anytime.
And that invalid character is just another Euro character, so that'll be gone. And now, I think we might actually have tests on... we should have some failing tests this time. Sweet. Okay, so one of these tests failed that I didn't expect to fail. So I'm not sure what's going on there. We can revisit that in a little bit. We're going to clean all this up before we actually finish the story. But I did see what I was hoping to see, which is some failures around if it's initially completed, it should have the completed class, and if it's not completed, it should not have the completed class. So let's see where we get here. Looks like we've got some timing issues on some of this stuff too. It timed out during one of these things, or it's not mocking the login the way it's supposed to. So let's see what I might have done wrong here. This was actually passing before. So I'm curious to see why this stopped passing when it was working okay earlier. We could try doing something like this. Yeah, that did it. Okay, so what did I do there? Why did it not work and then it worked? So we had an issue with trying to visit that checklist route too quickly. We need to finish mocking the login and then do that because the mock login is happening asynchronously. So just adding a simple promise convention here has deferred the visiting to the checklist route until this is completed, and by nature, before will not finish executing until all of its asynchronous functions have wrapped up. So by simply making that change, now our authenticated route is getting the type of functionality that we expected to see. And as I said, I did expect that we were going to have some failures here. So it looks like we're getting some errors. Hide evidence up your butt should have a completed class, which it should. It's checked, right? And making excuses, friends met along the way, that should have completed one. And then the incomplete ones are passing because they don't have the completed class, which they should not, because they're not completed yet. So we only have 2 failing tests now, and we can now make them pass, which is awesome. So let's do that. Let's make those pass real quick. And that's the cycle that we're going to get really used to doing, is writing a test that fails, getting it right, and then just iterate again, back and forth over and over again. So we need to, this is a very simple test to make pass. We need to get that completed class on the item that doesn't have it, on the 2 items that don't have it. Since we're mapping over these also, this is also a very effective way to make sure that things don't break. So let's take a look at the checklist item. I'll switch over to IntelliJ. And we're just going to go down to the... it looks like we've already got a class on these items. It's not completed, it's checked. So all I really need to do is double check. I'm going to update this to say checklist item on the class, because that makes more sense than checklist for the LI. And we want to make sure that it has the class. In either case, it should have the class checklist item. And if it's completed, it won't be called completed, it'll be called checked. That's the main change we're going to make there. And then we're going to do something similar and do another factory test for each of the items that we are for eaching earlier when we first look to see what it includes. So we'll add this here to say, does it have the checklist item class? And that'll make sure that we don't get weird style bugs when a class disappears that we expected to see. Bam, we got 6 more tests. Now, that also means it's important to make sure that your mocks are not bigger than they have to be, because you've noticed now I'm iterating over this 3 separate times, which means for every item that I put in this list, I'm going to get 3 tests and not 1. So let's be mindful of that. And now let's decrease the footprint to the smallest possible size. Because otherwise our tests are going to take forever to run because we let them get bloated. So I'm going to leave less than 23 hours a day. We'll say max 2 hours a day in front of TV. And we'll leave one under true. And we'll call that drink 64 of water, ounces of water or more. And that'll be done with true. So now we've already tested it with multiple checklist items. Now we're going to just keep it to a short list because we don't want our test to take forever to run. So we really only need the minimum number of items in our mock to validate all possible iterations and permutations of our cases. Bam. So now we're hitting all the same things, but we've reduced our test size to 9, which means that our test runtime has decreased by about half, and that's really good. That's what we want. We wanted to cut down. I don't know if half is accurate, but it's less, and that's good. And this is really important when it comes to scale, because if you're tripling your test numbers, then once you have 200 tests, you're going to hate yourself, because they're going to take forever to run, and that means all your commits and pushes and builds are going to take forever as well. Are these even clickable yet? They're not, right? And so when I click them, nothing happens. So now we've got another series of tests that we can bank on here. And I have a pattern here that I was going to crib from one of these other guys. So let's go ahead and do that. Or maybe it's one of the ones, yeah, right here. We'll grab this guy. Let me make sure that you guys can see IntelliJ here. So we're going to uncomment some of these blocks here, and we'll simplify this a little bit. And since we're going to use this in a bunch of different places, I'm going to store this in a constant. fat fingers. Oh, I'm getting the beach ball. Alright, here we go. And this is going to be called check. Okay, cool. So if it's initially completed, it won't have the checked class, but then when it's clicked, it will have the checked class. And then if it gets
the double the quotation mark there.
I think I already took care of that. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. A little bit of delay. There we go.
And then inside this assertion, we got to actually click it before we do that. And then we can move this guy up into the, cool. So this is going to be okay. I like where this is headed. Okay, and then the last thing that we're going to do is reverse to incomplete when it's clicked yet again. And there we go. Similarly, now we can uncomment these other tests and say, when clicked, if initially completed, when clicked, it should not have the completed class. And then we'll do completed items is equal to checklist mock filter for just the ones that are checked, and we can say completed items for each. Whoops. There we go. Yeah. Actually, I just noticed that I'm iterating over this object twice, so I'm going to avoid doing that. And just do something a little different. I'm doing this a bunch of times. No bueno. So I'll get rid of the one on 113. And then what we can do here is we got our mock item right there. Move this when clicked up. Let me minimize my run window so you can see what we've actually done here. Now I don't have to iterate over this thing 3 separate times. I'm just iterating over the entire block 1 time only. We'll do the same kind of refactor for the completed items. So we've already got completed items for each, and what we'll do now is create another constant for mock item. Then we've got that initial test, but then we'll have another describe block for when clicked, just like we did a moment ago. When clicked. Doesn't have it. Reverse the completed state. So, wait a minute, I didn't mean to double up on those its. Okay, and that means that I can get rid of this redundant guy right here. Okay, over here, when clicked. Whoops, this needed to live inside. This entire block needed to live inside the for each. So I'm moving that when clicked block up inside the for each because that's where it has to live. And then we can get rid of the other describe block. We're not going to need that anymore. Last but not least, okay. Boy, we did a lot. Any questions on any of this so far?
You were reorganizing pretty quick, but I understand what direction you're heading in.
Yeah, I wish there was something we could do about that, but I'm not really sure, other than actually physically being co-located, how we can work around that. I am getting some weird issues that I wasn't getting before, because we can't call sci.get outside of a running test. Got it. Okay. That's going to be problematic. So I just refactored based on an error that I saw in Cypress saying that we can't call sci.get unless it's inside of a test. So how do we do? Let's see. Now, I expect that a bunch of these are going to fail because we're going to try and click these things and expect them to do stuff that they don't know how to do yet, right? So we don't know how to change state when you're clicking on these things. So they should fail. Good. 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 So the ones that failed, if it's initially completed, and then we click on foo2, foo2 should not have the checked class after the first click. That shouldn't have passed. So I think this is backwards. I'm just inspecting it, and you're not going to see that window because it's outside of the regular one, but I'll tell you what it says. Because I'm just checking to see if this element here has the class that I was expecting it to or not. It does have checked. So foo2 does have checked, and it said it expected. Okay, so I think maybe I got these backwards. Let me double check that here. In my incomplete items, looking for items that are not checked, and then we say doesn't have checked class, do not have checked class, has checked class when clicked. We click it, and then it should have. Okay, so update this. Mock item. Let me switch back over to IntelliJ so you guys can see what I'm doing. Right, we're getting somewhere. Okay. So this one says doesn't have checked class, so this should not have class. And reverse to completed, so this was backwards. I forgot to update that. All right. I'm feeling pretty good about these changes. Let's see how they turned out. And then we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the day. I think we made some great progress here. So basically what we've got now are some assertions for the type of functionality we expect to code tomorrow. Good. So still 2 test failures, but hopefully now they're the right test failures. Which is basically like the ones that say things should have reverted to a certain state should pass because we didn't mutate them in the first place, right? So when clicked is the one that fails, but the initial state is correct and the reverted state is correct. And so all we do now is add and remove that class, and then our tests will be passing. And then after that, I'm going to do a little more research this weekend on wiring up our GraphQL harness for running GraphQL-based tests in Cypress. And then we're going to finish this feature. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if we did it totally test first, but we're definitely coalescing in that direction, and I'm pleased about that.
Figuring out how all the tests work so that we can move forward writing smooth tests.
Mm-hmm.
All the network.
Yeah. Yep. Superb. I really like how this looks. I like the way that the tests are together. It is passing in the areas that we expect it to. It is failing in the areas that we expect it to. So we're in a good place for right now. I'm going to end the stream in a minute, and then I will commit and push this code. I don't know if we'll actually be able to push it just yet because the tests aren't passing. But we'll pick it up again tomorrow anyway.
Sounds like a plan.
So I know you guys are still getting your feet wet and trying to understand, you know, the syntax of this project. I spent a lot of time working on it solo, so there's a lot of ground to cover and a lot of catching up to do. But thanks for being patient, and thanks for your attention and just kind of getting up to speed on this. And we'll pick it up again tomorrow.
Worth it. Yeah, man, it's been really cool to see how all of this comes together. Like the ideas behind actually set up. It's really well.
Can't wait to put this into use on a real production application, man. I'm so excited.
No doubt. Yeah, and before we finish everything, we're also going to take a look at the routes, the role and attribute-based control system that allows access to all this stuff, and take a look at how we can add these constants. I'll add a couple of notes under the bugs that I'm listing here so that we can fix that menu bug and fix the issue with constants and import it into Cypress and figure out what's going on there. But great progress, guys, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Thanks for
Thanks very much, dude.
thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.